When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado, Man-Made Survival. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I greatly appreciate that you come back and watch these videos and you share them with your friends and family, because all this information is very, very important. Alright, as we're going to be talking about today, it's time again for us to talk about the economy, because things are getting from bad to worse, as we've seen. Alright, and a lot of people are getting really angry that the stock market is growing, but the recovery as far as the economy goes is not really there yet. All right, even though there's some people that have come out and say that the recovery, quote unquote, is starting to, to crank up, there's a lot of people who have not seen that yet. And of course, the majority of people, because as it stands right now, we still have over 40 million people unemployed. And a lot of those people have not received their unemployment. And some of those have not even received their stimulus check that was promised to them by the government. So a lot of people feel themselves like they're in a place of uncertainty, right? And it's well-founded because, there's a lot of things going on right now. And especially this year, as a lot of people have noticed, there's things going month after month, or at least it seems like week after week, there's something new going on, all right? And not just in the United States, but all throughout the world. So our focus today is going to be the economy. And also how is that affecting prices of certain things. All right, so it's getting so bad that the economy, some people are starting to come out and saying that we're starting to look like Zimbabwe, that eventually we're going to get there. All right, and the way I have explained it before is that we're on a road to look like Venezuela, because Venezuela is the best example that we can see of a first world nation that went, beyond third world. All right, the people in Venezuela, let me remind you, they lived like we live in the United States as far as the standard of living is concerned. All right, so before I go any further, I want to remind you, though, I have my book, all right? It's Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.preppersecretcache.com and you can order it from there. And remember, the book is free. All we need your help is with shipping. All right, and I wanted to read to you something from the book, because a lot of the stuff in it is really important, and there's a lot of stuff that I talk about and that I teach that in a time of crisis is going to help you a lot. And this is about growing food. Most of us struggle to think about what to buy at the grocery store to make for dinner day after day. We also enjoy the luxury of going out to eat now and then, so we can take a break from cooking. Unfortunately, something that we can no longer do because of the lockdowns and everything. When you are facing an end-of-the-world situation, you aren't going to have such options. In addition of hunting, you need to do what you can to grow your own food. You need to have the skills that will help you with determining what to plant, how to get the soil ready, watering, harvesting, and keeping predators out of your garden. What you grow is vital to your well-being, because you can't guarantee that your supplies will last. You can't guarantee that you will be successful every time you go out to hunt either. But growing food as well as hunting, you will have another resource to help you do your best to ensure your family does have the food they need every single day. All right, and that's just a small part of the entire book. And I teach a lot of stuff, a lot of points that I give, what you need to store, things like that, all right? Remember, go to www.preppersecretcache.com and you order it from there, or you just click the link below. All right, so the United States, we always had this status, or at least since World War II, we have the status of first world nation, and, because of the world currency that we enjoy, that we had, the status that it gave us, of course, gave a lot of enjoyment to the people of the United States all throughout the years until now. All right, it's no surprise what we've seen in the past couple of months because of coronavirus. What happened, it made the entire U.S. economy come to a screeching halt. And out of that, a lot of people have found themselves in a very tough position that they've never been before. And not just, on the individual, but in the small businesses. They cannot afford the rent. They cannot afford to keep paying their employees. So all of that combined with all the spending that we're doing is creating this bomb, this time bomb, that it's eventually going to blow up. All right, and it's all gonna it's gonna be the further we take this bomb and we kick it down the road, the more devastating the explosion is going to be. All right, so here's my first headline that I have for the night. Here it is. A crash in the dollar is coming. This from yahoo.com. The era of the US dollar exorbitant privilege as the world's primary reserve currency is coming to an end. Already stressed by the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, US living standards are about to be squeezed as never before. At the same time, the world is having serious doubt about once widely accepted presumption of American exceptionalism. Currency set the equilibrium between these two forces, domestic economic fundamentals and foreign perception of a nation's strength or weakness. The balance is shifting, and a crash in the dollar could well be in the offing. All right, so since the end of World War II, the United States became the reserve currency, with the petrodollar and everything that happened with that. All right, and because of that, it has created a lot of wealth all throughout the world, especially the United States, because we're the ones that created the SWIFT system. All right, so that system, what it does is that no one in the world can trade with another nation without using this system, and of course that gave us the upper hand on doing transaction things. And whenever we do some type of sanction on a country, and we threaten them with the SWIFT system, or kicking them out of the SWIFT system, like we did Iran, or we're trying to do with China, that's a very big blow against that country's economy. So when the United States tries to pull that card and say, do this or else we're gonna take you away from the SWIFT system or whatever, nations do what the United States wants because they fear that they'll be kicked out. Now, of course, that's creating a lot of resentment with a lot of nations around the world that they are trying to work on a system that will be separate from the United States, and they'll be able to trade back and forth without having to worry about sanctions affecting them from the United States. All right, so bringing things back home, we have been spending a lot of money. All right, in previous podcasts, I gave the details on how we spent over $1 trillion in 28 days. All right, that's just insane amount of money. And now, about another month later, we're about to spend another $1 trillion. And probably by now we're already on there, or at least by the end of the week. The point is that we're spending a lot of money very, very quickly because we're bailing people out, we're bailing businesses out. Any corporation that we can think of is getting a bailout. All right, and that's something that cannot be sustained for a very long time, because eventually that's going to make us end up like Venezuela. Like I said, we're on the road to Venezuela, to end up like Venezuela. All right, Venezuela has been under dictatorship pretty much and hyperinflation for about 6 to 7 years now. All right, and those people are having the world's terrible time as far as living expense and everything. A carton of eggs, I'm guessing it's a 12-pack. It's over $400,000 or their dollars. All right, for one. That's just when you compare that, and it just blows your mind. All right, so that's why I say we're on the road to get there, and you must prepare now in order for when that happens, because it's gonna happen. All right, we're on our way there right now, so you have to prepare today. That way, when that comes around, you'll be in a better position. You'll be able to feed your family. You'll be able to have things that you wish you would have if you prepare at the last minute. Like we've seen time after time, especially through this pandemic, and then with the riots and stuff. I've shared how people panicked buy with the coronavirus first started, and then everything was sold out. And then with the riots, at least in my area, a lot of people are trying to get ready for that last minute, trying to buy guns, trying to buy ammo. And of course, everybody and their mother did the same thing, and now nobody can find any ammo. All right. And then you have to wait over a period of time to be able to get those guns. So preparing before something happens is the best thing you can do. Because when you pay attention and you listen to podcasts like mine, that we're telling you what's going to happen and on the road we're going to, that's going to lead eventually to war, to this hyperinflation that I'm talking about, the dollar collapsing, a bunch of things. There are a realistic scenario, it's not like we're saying alien zombies are going to come out and they're going to eat everybody. I mean, that's not what we're talking about that. We're talking about real things, real scenarios that are going to happen or that are happening now that we're seeing, and everyone is sounding the alarm, especially the economy people. All right, so the next headline that I have for you is going to be very telling what I'm telling you. All right, and listen to the wording that this economist person said. Here's the headline. We effectively have a Zimbabwe Fed. This John Williams warns the system is bankrupt. This from ZeroHedge.com. While the country was distracted with the COVID-19 lockdown and economic crisis, the Federal Reserve made a huge banking requirement change never before done in history. The Fed cut, quote, reserve requirements ratios to 0% effective March 26, 2020. This action eliminated reserves requirements for all depository institutions, end quote. All right, so what does this mean? Or what does this profound change mean? Economist John Williams says the system is bankrupt and they are just spending the money to prevent an immediate collapse as opposed to having a collapse right now. They have cut reserve rates back to 0%. The bailout of the banking system of the Great Recession didn't work. So now they are just printing money and bailing out whatever they have to. People have done this throughout history, including the Weimar Republic, which is Germany, hyperinflation, and Zimbabwe also had hyperinflation. We effectively have a Zimbabwe Fed. So the Fed is going to print all the money it needs to bail out every bank that needs one, Williams said. That's exactly what they said they are going to do. And not only any bank, but any financial institution, the stock market, and with infinite money, you can do all sorts of things. But guess what? You also get a hyperinflation. They have crossed the line. That's why you want to own physical precious metals. On the economy decimated by the forced COVID-19 lockdowns, Williams, who is the founder of ShadowStats.com, computes data without all the accounting gimmicks to make things look better than they really are. Williams says, we have about 40 million unemployed, which is about 40% unemployment rate using ShadowStats.com methods, and not 13% claimed by the government. I am looking for the hyperinflation, and this money gets pumped out there. You will continue to see prices rise, and you are going to see some acceleration there. In hyperinflation, it will be so rapid the currency is worthless to you. All right. So something that I want to point out, all right, that he said is this. People have done this through history, including the Weimar Republic, which was Germany, and they saw hyperinflation during World War II, and Zimbabwe, which also has seen hyperinflation. All right. So the quote that he said is, that's exactly what they said they are going to do. And not only any bank, but any financial institution, the stock market, and with infinite money, you can do all sorts of things. But guess what? You also get hyperinflation. They have crossed the line. That's why you want to own physical precious metals. All right. So it's something that before Mr. William came out and said this about hyperinflation, it's something that I have warned about for a while now, that all the spending that we've seen, it's enormous. All right. And that's just what's on the books. The derivatives and everything else is just, past $2 quadrillion, as I've shared in the past as well. So I encourage you to look at those if you have not seen them. But the point is that all of this, as he is saying, is taking us to the road of hyperinflation, which is what Venezuela has been experiencing for about 6 to 7 years now. All right, so you want to own precious metals. All right, and just so you can get an idea of how bad it got in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's central bank allowed its citizens to exchange the country's almost worthless currency for US dollars. Its $100 trillion note is worth just 40 US cents. That's how big and enormous the gap of the US dollar with Zimbabwe money was. All right, and it's exactly the same we see in Venezuela. That's how big the ramifications of hyperinflation is. That's where you have to pay attention. So I'm going to show you this chart. All right, the chart that you're seeing on the screen. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I encourage you to go watch this video on YouTube, Brighteon, or other sources, because the chart that I'm showing, it just proves what I'm talking about. All right. So 1 gold ounce equals, all right. Okay. So I'm going to say in the dollars first. 1 ounce of gold, US dollars, is $1,683.87. I'm going to say that again. $1,683.87. That's 1 ounce of gold in the United States. 1 ounce of gold in Venezuela, it's 418,421,540.07 cents. All right, 1 kilo, right, in the USD or US dollars is $54,143,000. Excuse me, $54,143.74. In Venezuela, the same kilo, the same bar of gold, it's 13,454,068,812.47 cents. You can see the very big gap that hyperinflation creates. That's just with gold. All right, if 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars was 40 cents, from the United States, I wonder how much 1 ounce of gold would be in Zimbabwe money. Now, that's what having your dollar collapse looks like, or, your currency collapse looks like. And everybody has been talking about that we're going to that direction with the US dollar, that we are headed for the US dollar to collapse eventually. When is it going to happen? I don't know. But the way that we're spending money, the way that we're doing things right now, and everybody's talking, it could be, I don't know, within, let's say, 5 years, maybe 10 years, if we're lucky. What if it's a lot sooner than that? What if all of this accelerates even faster than we think it's going to go? All right, so that is the big problem. That is the big, $1 million question. When is it going to happen? And being able to predict it accurately is going to be very difficult for anyone to do. All right, so my next headline shows that all of this is not just the United States, at least with the pandemic, with the shutdown and everything. This problem is global. Here it is. Pandemic drives broadest economic collapse in 150 years. World Bank. This from yahoo.com. The coronavirus pandemic inflicted a swift and massive shock that has caused the broadest collapse of the global economy since 1870, despite unprecedented government support, the World Bank said Monday. The world economy is expected to contract by 5.2% this year, the worst recession in 80 years. But the sheer number of countries suffering economic losses means the scale of the downturn is worse than any recession in 150 years. The World Bank said that its latest global economic prospect report. They say this is a deeply sobering outlook, with the crisis likely to leave long-lasting scars and pose major global challenges, said World Bank Group Vice President for Equitable Growth Financial and Institution, Clyla Pazar-Bezioglu, or no, I'll kill that. The depth of the crisis will drive 70 to 100 million people into extreme poverty, worse than the prior estimated 60 million, she told reporters. All right, so just think about that. About 70 to 100 million people would be driven to extreme poverty. That's the same thing that we saw in Venezuela, extreme poverty. It got so bad, it is so bad in Venezuela, that people have been eating out of the trash cans what they can find. It got so bad that we're eating zoo animals. All right, just wrap your head around that. And right now, the starvation in Venezuela is so great. The mothers, when they get their box, kind of like, I guess you could say, like food stamps here in the United States, or their rations over there in Venezuela, they get the meat of their sandwich, their packaged sandwich, and they feed it to their kids because the kids are hungry. All right, and the adults are starving themselves today. They're drinking cow blood as a source of protein so they can give the real food to their children. That's how great the devastation is in Venezuela. All right, so other things that we have also seen here lately, bringing it back to the United States now, is that everything has gone up about 70%. All right, which is my next headline. Here it is. The price of half the world's staple foods is up 70% in 2020. This from SearHedge. The first good news, after soaring to the record highs 1 month ago due to the widespread shutdown of meat-processing plants and supply chain impairment, wholesale beef prices have tumbled sharply and are just barely higher than where they were before the coronavirus pandemic struck. Now the not so good news, as Bank of America's Michael Harnett notes in his Flow show today, while beef may be affordable again, rice, the staple food for half of the world's population, is becoming increasingly unaffordable. Quote, surging 70% since January on COVID-19 labor supply chain hit and stockpiling, end quote. Should rice prices not revert to normal and soon, how long before the protests, riots, and looting that are currently sweeping the U.S. and various European countries is spread across the entire world, this time over the far more tangible cost, hunger? As a reminder, it was the surge of food prices in late 2010 and early 2011 that precipitated the Arab Spring protests that toppled numerous political regimes and eventually culminating with the mass exodus of migrants from Northern Africa and the Middle East towards Europe. All right, so there's a lot of places, not just in the United States, but throughout the world, who are seeing this problem, and that's why everybody must get ready for it. All right, as I read in my book, all right, I read that part of the book to you earlier, that said the reasons why you need to grow your own food, because you may not be successful to hunt, or your stockpile may run out, or maybe things get so expensive that you can't afford them. And if you prepare now, if you add to your stockpile now, then these problems are not going to be as deadly as if you didn't prepare at all. All right, if you knew today that in 6 months from now that everything was going to be so expensive that nobody could buy anything, you will start accumulating food right now for when that happened, right? Well, since we don't know when it's going to happen, it would be better for you to have that stuff ready now while you have the ability to do it than wait for the minute that it happens, like we saw with the pandemic, as we saw with the riots, as we see with any other natural disaster where the hurricane is coming in and people don't leave their town until the day of, right as it's falling up on top of them. All right, so be wise. Prepare before anything happens. So what we are seeing now is something that we can prepare for later. Remember, we're on the road to Venezuela, and if we ever get there, which I'm thinking we might be, because so much debt that we cannot pay back and everything else that we're seeing, once we get there, you're going to be thankful to yourself, and your family is going to be thankful to you for preparing. All right, so I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to get my book, to get all the information that's in it, all the tips that I give, all the information that you can learn from it. And I also encourage you to share and like this video so other people can get the information as well. They can get the tips. They can get the urge message of get prepared today rather than wait for it when it happens, or or not prepare at all. So please like the video, share the video with your friends and family. Help us grow by showing this to everyone so I encourage you to come back as well, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about the nuclear war possibility again, and how you're going to make your plans to prepare. We're going to do a lot of simulations and things that I'm going to be showing you. Is going to be very interesting, so I encourage you to come back. And remember, my name is Jose Prado, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.